You're watching NASCAR Tube. And now, your host, Erik Jones.
What is going on, you guys? NASCAR EJ coming to you once again from the NASCAR Tube. And the Spongebob Squarepants 400 is over. How sad. That was one of the best racing, some of the best racing we have seen all season long. All season long. And that is, I don't think that's my opinion only. If you watch that race Saturday night, and you tell me that wasn't good racing, we got serious problems. Between me and you and the rest of the NASCAR community. That was some of the best racing we have seen this whole season, there ain't no doubt. Jimmie Johnson did get the job done. He wins the Spongebob Squarepants 400. As you can tell, I really like saying that. But Kevin Harvick finishes second again. And Erik Jones makes his second race, first race debut. Makes his first race debut, full race, first start in the Sprint Cup Series in the number 18 Toyota Camry. And really performs well, finished 40th, but we'll talk about that later. And we had Joe Gibbs' cars did not do well at all. Matt Kenseth finished 20th. But overall, this was the best racing we've seen. And Mother Nature did make her appearance again, just like Richmond. We got a few laps in, and then there we go. Finishing at night, which was kind of like Bristol, rather, not Richmond. But anyway, let's look at the highlights first.
For the fourth time this season, Coors Light Pole Award winner Joey Logano led the field to green. Jimmie Johnson had his hands full early, making a great save, but loose handling forced him to the rear of the pack. On lap 57, Martin Truex Jr. took advantage of a bobble from race leader Kevin Harvick and put his Furniture Row Chevy out front. Sunoco Rookie of the Year contender Jeb Burton spun his car in turn 4, bringing out the caution. While under yellow, drivers and spotters alike began to report rain.
It is raining pretty good. The ground is totally wet right now. We just see now the cars are rolling in.
The title sponsor of the race may be absorbent, yellow, and porous, but he needed to call on his friend Air Titan to help dry up the track, and after a 2-hour and 16-minute delay, the race went back to green. A pit road penalty forced Joey Logano to restart at the end of the longest line, but he would make quick work of the field and soon find his way back at the front. A feat he pulled off not once, but twice. In his first official NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race, 18-year-old Erik Jones put on quite the show until lap 196, when he spun out and made hard contact with the outside wall on the front stretch. Late in the running, questions of fuel mileage began to arise, but all that went out the window when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. smacked the wall right in front of the leaders with 11 to go. Varying pit strategies abound, but it was the call from Chad Knaus to have Jimmie Johnson stay out that proved to be the winning move, as the driver of the number 48 drove his way to his 73rd career win.
It's fun to win one gambling. We haven't really gambled before and won, so not to my knowledge, so it feels a little different and pretty cool to have that come together.
So as we did see there that Jimmie Johnson did get the win at Kansas Motor Speedway for the Spongebob Squarepants 400. And like I said before, this is his third win this season. And if you recall back a year ago, what were we saying about Jimmie Johnson? When is he getting to victory lane? That's what we all were thinking. And then he ended up getting victory lane at Charlotte at the Coca-Cola 600 for the first time. And when you have a team that's been that dominant over the past 10 years, I mean, he won his first championship in 2006 and won 5 other ones since then. And 5 of those championships were in a row. So basically, that team is still on the top edge. And I think that when you take Kevin Harvick and you put him up against Jimmie Johnson still has more skill. And this is my opinion. Jimmie Johnson still has more skill. And it's kind of hard to explain the way I think it is. But really, Jimmie Johnson has won. He's got the record to prove it. Kevin Harvick just won his first championship this past season. So, but maybe Kevin Harvick's got one of these teams now. Maybe think about that. But going into what happened at, what going on with Denny Hamlin. If you saw during the race, Denny Hamlin, there was a little skirmish. You can see it up here. Little skirmish coming on the backstretch. They got 4 wide. And Denny kind of just got smooshed in the middle. After that happened, I looked over and told my girlfriend, I said, well, look for a tire to go out here pretty soon, because there ain't no way you could have gotten through that without a tire rub. And sure enough, Denny Hamlin did end up getting a tire rub and blew his, I believe it was his right rear tire. And up in the wall he went. NASCAR did not throw this caution until about 10 seconds after. This happened last week at Talladega with Carl Edwards. Carl Edwards complained about it. They said, and basically this is kind of a driver safety thing, so I think NASCAR should pay attention to what the drivers are saying with this. And I kind of agree with them, to tell you the truth. And the way Denny Hamlin puts it is he says, I spin out, I hit the wall, come back down, I'm facing backwards on the track. Cars are still coming at me at 200 miles per hour, and they have not thrown the caution. He could get hit. Simple as that. Last week at Talladega, I see where Carl was upset. I think he was more upset because Casey Mears dumped him into turn 2. But at the same time, I still see what he was saying. NASCAR is in a tough predicament on the last lap at restrictor plate races. There ain't no doubt. So at that point, I really can't say much about that. I really don't know how I feel about that, to tell you the truth. It's restrictor plate racing. It has more risk, I think. So, if you tell me what you think about that in the comments. Tell me what you think about that in the comments. Does NASCAR need to listen about the timing of the caution flags being thrown? I understand this at intermediate tracks, short tracks. On last lap, on the final lap of a Sprint Cup at a restrictor plate race, I don't know. But I totally saw Denny Hamlin's point, and I still see Carl Edwards' point. But I don't know how you could really do that at the last lap at a restrictor plate race. And Carl was not at the front of the field either. He was more towards the back. Guys are not going to have time to react at restrictor plate races like they will at intermediate tracks either. So I'm kind of seeing to where they didn't throw the caution at Talladega, and I understand that. At Kansas, I think NASCAR should have thrown it earlier because, I mean, that's a fast track. It's a fast track. You're running Talladega speeds or higher at Kansas, and Denny Hamlin sits there in the middle of the track, and 10 seconds after he's already been sitting there, after he spun out, after he's sitting there facing oncoming traffic coming 200 miles per hour, you got to be uneasy about that. It's like, hey, slow down. You need lights to tell these guys to slow down because, hey, there's trouble ahead. So I totally see Denny Hamlin's point about that. Going on to Erik Jones. Erik Jones really showed us who he really was this weekend. I know he did well at Bristol, filling in for Denny Hamlin, but at the same time, I really saw how he was over in this week in the 18 car. Had his seat, had his steering wheel. That car was set for him. It even had his name on top. You can't get more real than that. But Erik Jones is going to be the next big name in NASCAR. I'm telling you right now. And I think he's going to be the top Toyota driver at a young age. I think he will. We haven't really seen many Toyota drivers get that big other than Kyle Busch. But he originally didn't start with Toyota. He started at Hendrick back in 05. So I really can't see how Erik Jones, I think he needs to be in a Cup ride next year. I had changed my mind on that, and I said, he needs to spend a couple more years in Nationwide, or in Xfinity, excuse me, before he goes on to Cup. And I still agree with that. Let's wait a couple more weeks, and I'll give you my thought on that more. After the 600, I will tell you how I really think where Erik Jones needs to be next year. Or maybe it may take even a little longer than that, because you really got to think about it. Look at what they did to Joey Logano. We've talked about this many times. I'm not going to get into it again. Joey Logano started too early. Didn't have the success until 5 years later. Don't do that to Erik Jones. It's not good on him. He's 18 years old. Let him learn. Let him get the experience in an Xfinity car and trucks. Let him get that experience and then see how he comes up the Cup. But it broke my heart when I saw him spin out. And I thought, well, maybe they can fix it. But he ain't done yet. Our car was too good for him to just go on back. But it ended up messing it up a little more than what we thought. But ended up going back to the garage. He finished 40th. I think I said Matt Kenseth finished 20th a while ago. And he actually finished 6th. So Matt Kenseth finished 6th of the night. It's better than best Gibbs driver finish. Carl was doing a good job. He had a great car. Had a late scheduled pit stop, green flag pit stop. Threw him back. He finished in the 20s. Denny Hamlin had the accident, of course. And that's the Gibbs drivers. They just didn't have a good week. Which Matt Kenseth didn't run a clean race. He spun out and hit something earlier in the race as well. So either way, not the greatest weekend for Gibbs drivers. But Kevin Harvick finishes second. Great weekend for him. I've never would have thought the day that you would have seen drivers being disappointed for finishing second. But if you've had the record that he's had, I'd be disappointed for finishing second. Especially at a race called the Spongebob Squarepants 400. But either way, really, really good race this weekend. And look forward to Charlotte coming up these next 2 weeks. And there will not be a video next week. There may be a video different. I haven't really decided yet, but tell me what you think about that as well. Tell me about another video, and might do some other things here. But let's go ahead and talk about next week. Well, 2 weeks. Let's go on back on to 2 weeks for the 600. Who's going to win the Coca-Cola 600? I'm not going to put the All-Star race in because it's not a points race. I'm going to talk about the 600. Who's going to win the 600? Don't be surprised. Jimmie Johnson wins this mile and a half track. I think it's going to be Kevin Harvick that wins the Coca-Cola 600. Kevin Harvick will win the Coca-Cola 600 in 2 weeks. Really excited for the All-Star race. I like the qualifying. That's really fun. The qualifying for the All-Star race is so fun. If you haven't seen qualifying, make sure you tune in. Find out what time qualifying is for the All-Star race and watch that. It's totally different. Single car runs, but it's unreal. I'd just rather watch qualifying the whole time, just to say that. I mean, how they come off turn 4 down pit road at 150, 160 miles per hour. That's unreal. So that's my pick for next week. In 2 weeks, actually. Excited to see the All-Star race. Sad to see the Spongebob Squarepants 400 is over, but you got to move on through the season. So the Coca-Cola 600's in 2 weeks, and then after that we'll be on to the next race. And as always, y'all have a nice day.
Restrictor plate racing long has been Junior's playground. Every win, the 5 before today and now number 6 at Talladega, have been special. Why is this one so much fun? Because your grin told so many stories on your cool-down lap.
It's just real emotional. I haven't won here in a long time. It was my daddy's birthday a couple days ago. And just real emotional, man. I've been, everything's just so good for me right now.